Hello, family and friends. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be. This is Dr. Godswill Oki with Communication Moments once again. Like we discussed the other time, we said we are going to look at internal communications as it concerns organizations. But in Nigeria, we have some burning issues. So I will fulfill the promise. We will look at those. We will examine the processes. We will examine the approach to internal communications, maybe indeed for 5 minutes, and thereafter we will give an overview of the communication strategies adopted by Dr. Betta Edu, the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. I think that's a topical issue that is hitting Nigeria at this moment. But before then, I want to thank you all for your participations, in what we've been doing so far. And I want to thank you for being there and holding forth and for your questions. But please remember to subscribe, to share, and to put on your notification buttons for those who have not done so, so that you receive these wonderful 10 minutes of discussions with you and to answer any pertinent question which you may have for me. And don't also forget that we are into consulting, we are into training, we are into advertising and public relations and lectures and workshops for those organizations and individuals who may desire such. Without much ado, what are those, when we say internal communications in an organization, what are we talking about? We are simply looking at those processes. We are simply looking at those ways and modes through which communications are carried out in an organization internally. Mind you, last time we were talking about the individual aspect of communicating, but now we're looking at the internal communications of an organization. And these are diverse. They are diverse as there are many in an organization. And communication, internal communication, as well as external communication, also determine the culture and how an organization is perceived. So it's quite important when we engage or when we are carrying out such functions, desirous for effective internal communications. Two things we may need to remember is that internal communications deal essentially, it's both vertical and horizontal. It's upward, downward communication, and then downward, upward communication. It could also be diagonal, especially when you have the role of labor unions or some other parties. And it could also be horizontal, flat between departments or individuals of different departments. So, but those things we also need to understand is that internal communications are official communications. People probably don't realize that when you engage in, when you're in an organization, either virtually or physically, whatever communication you carry out mainly, as far as it has to do with the workings of that organization, are official, not necessarily semi-official, as may be the case. So most workers, management get caught up in that trap without realizing that it should just be officials as it should be. Now there are different forms of communicating and internally, like we mentioned. But one thing again we want to realize is that those communications, as much as they're formal, they should also be polite. If it is a written form, they should be in good English and simple, well to understood English. And by the way, internal communications are also, they could be verbal, they could be text or print, it could be digital. Most organizations these days engage in digital forms of communications. As it were, it could be the video, So these are the things we may need to realize at this point in time, oh no, the 5 minutes I apportioned to it is gone. But the most important forms are those you have, like emails, you have letters, you have meetings, minutes of meetings, briefs, proposals, you have circulars, notices, social media platforms. We shall look at all these with the passage of time, and I'm sure we will cover enough grounds. But without much ado, let's briefly look at the communications engaged in by uh, the minister, or I think she has been suspended now, Dr. Betta Edu. I followed it with interest, bearing in mind it's something that will also be of interest to each and every one of us. The communications ab initio were definitely not right. We are not in the business of condemning the politics or whatever, but we are simply looking at the communication strategies. The communications adopted by the Honorable Minister were just faulty, but then they were typical of what obtains, you know. When one is caught in an illegal activity, there are two things, you know. One, you keep quiet, but the most important thing is not to engage in that illegal activity, so that you will not call questions about your person and about the roles you played and the humiliations that come with it. First of all, there was denial, and the media officers denied the allegation and claimed that she was being haunted by those she revealed, you know, about their corrupt practices, talking about billions in naira. And secondly, these things, they have a way of being leaked. The papers were leaked, and you would think probably that she would do the next thing, which was probably to either to keep quiet. The most important thing when somebody is in such a position, which the expert should, a communication expert or media advisor should advise, is don't say anything. Or if you're going to say anything, you get clearance from your superior. In this case, His Excellency the President. I don't believe those things were done, and she acted in incognito, and then she faced a lot of blunders. Those are lessons that public officers and private officers ought to learn. There's always a hierarchy, but the most important thing, like I said, is the ethical aspect. If you don't want to crawl there with the pigs, you stay clear of those activities. But the other thing is that the media officers didn't look at the extemporaneous situations in the country, the perception of the government, and of course, she's a pretty young girl that's doing well, not necessarily for herself, but also for the country. And people are not really having the best of times because of certain policies, and the government itself needs to burnish its image as a corruption fighting government. So I think she should have considered all those things. The media advisor should have considered all those aspects before going to town with whatever information they were passing. And then when those things happen, you don't also say that your detractors are fighting you, when the evidence is quite clear. It's all over there on social media with her signature and all. And when you're invited, you told some other group of people that they shouldn't worry that you're fighting, and which shows a level of arrogance. No, those communications are not right. And I believe that these are the things we will treat more maybe in the next week. But like I promised, we are going to dwell extensively on the internal communication modes, in one after the other, so that we have a better idea and appreciate what each form is used for and how effectively it should be used for. Thank you once again. The time is always short when we are into these conversations, but I remain Dr. Godswill Oki, Communication Moments, perfecting the art of communication in you. And don't forget, like you said, subscribe, share, like, and let's keep moving. Don't forget that in the next few months, we are going to have our town hall. Prepare your questions, prepare your discussions, and I trust that these will be met. Have a good time wherever you may be. Thank you.